So this is the Combat Station. I'm your host, Ty Matthews, and today we have a special guest on, Joe Solecki. How you doing, mate?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. It's awesome to be talking with you.
Mate, anytime. But let's get right into it. So obviously you lost your last fight to Jared Gordon. Okay, it was a split decision. Now I was going to ask, what do you feel went wrong in that fight?
Well, I didn't do anything. That was the game plan. And I don't know that. Obviously, I got to take ownership because I was the one in there. But it was just some of the way the fight unfolded. And I've always been such a disciplined fighter, where I stick to what I'm supposed to do and where I excel in that matchup. So like, for example, I've had fights where my plan wasn't to go to the ground right away. And that was this fight. I think the third round kind of showed because, again, it was a split decision, and the way I've been saying it is like, it's one of those where if my hand would have got raised, I couldn't have been, obviously you're happy you get a win, but I can't be too high on it because it was so close. And the same way I lost, I can't, I can't be mad at the decision because I should have done more, if it's that close. But point being is, I think he won the third round if you're going to give it to him off of, the aggression of takedowns and put me on the wall, and I got up or I got off the wall, but he was initiating it. And I think the judge that scored it for me was because I was landing on the feet, and really the plan was to get going on the feet early on and, put a little bit of pressure on him, but smart pressure. And I think I was the more technical stand-up fighter and I had a little more pop, so that was the plan. I leaped in with a big hook and we fell into each other and we ended up on the ground. And I think, kind of talking about it with the coaches and stuff, was I had so much success on the ground in the first round that going out in round two in a really not me type fashion, I was like, let me just get this to the ground where I was winning so easily, and that was real low hanging fruit I was reaching for. Just not the best decision I've ever made in a fight. And it's bound to happen to all of us eventually. I've had fights where I lost from inexperience or, whatever. I got hit with a good shot, but this was one where this was my decision making, and that's the first time it's ever happened to me. And I am very much intent on making it the last.
Now, you said you did, as we know, you did have a very dominant first round. Now, I was going to ask, do you feel you may have slowed down or you were overconfident from having such success early on?
No, I don't think overconfident. I think it was just, let's get right back to where things were going well. I'm a direct fighter. I get right to it. I'm a fast starter usually. And I don't feel like I slowed down because in the third, I felt great. We were both a little slower than we were in the first because it's the third round of the fight and we were moving. But no, I don't even feel like it was a slowing down issue. I didn't make the right decisions off my back in the third as well, but he did a great job of, if you watch the fight back, he was, in close guard, not trying to pass, but he was sprawled out. Like he was almost going like pelvis to the floor where I had no space to push the head and get up, and I couldn't get an angle that I needed to, which was a really smart move by him. I kind of did that in the Jim Miller fight, is when you have a guy with a dangerous guard, you got to stifle those hips, and he did a great job of that. But I felt great in coming off the stool all three rounds. I felt like my gas tank was great. I felt, I still had pop in the third round. Some of those shots landed pretty good. I had speed, and I just kind of made a mental lapse in the second round, committing to those takedowns without setting them up. And I really should have, even though the first round was so successful for me on the ground, I should have come out and stuck to the game plan and got to, putting some good pressure on him on the feet in the second round. My coaches did a great job coming up with the game plan. Preparation was great. And I just really made some poor decisions. But also, I have to give props to Jared. He's a super tough fighter and a good fighter. A lot of guys, give up their neck on the back or get demoralized. He did an awesome job. And one in the fight arguably was in the second round. He didn't get taken down, but he put me down. He kind of hit almost like a wizard kick and put me down on my back. And he wasn't afraid to come to the ground with me at all, and he stifled my hips. So I got to give him credit too.
You've admitted the fight was close, but I was going to ask, do you feel you did enough to win the decision? By the end of
when I'm in there, I can't say, I got done and I was just mad I didn't make it more dominant or I didn't finish, my coaches in the corner kind of were like, dude, you won that fight. But watching it back, I'm my own worst critic. So I really feel like you can flip a coin, but I can see where they're coming from. I've seen so many fights where, if you're shooting in, being the aggressor, you deserve the decision. And then I'm seeing how, the second he shot in, I'm snapping down and getting out of there. Then I can see how that goes for me too. But it's not something, it's not even for my ego that I would have wanted to win, because I don't feel like I would have beat him. If they raised my hand, I don't feel like I really beat him and got the better of him, more for the sake of just peace of mind and knowing I'm 4-0 in the UFC and not 3-1 and financially and all that stuff. But yeah, it's so hard to say. I really can't claim a win there, even if and even if it was a robbery, I'm not somebody that's going to sit and cry about it. I just get back in the gym on Monday and you work hard to make sure that never happens again, or do my best to. So just kind of been in the gym reinventing myself and making sure that that's not going to happen again, that I'm either going to go out on my shield or I'm going to put them out of there or make it so dominant where they can't take it from me.
Now, you said you've been in the gym working. Coming out of that fight, is there anything you've worked on specifically, or have you just been trying to?
Absolutely. Yeah. I train all year long and I'm always working on everything, but the big thing with this was I'm a pretty technical fighter, especially on my feet. Like I know I get the grappler reputation, and that makes sense. I've been grappling my whole life, but with the Miller fight, when I came out in the first round, I was landing a lot of shots and I was quick and I was very light on my feet and I was getting in and out and being technical, and the same thing in the Hubbard fight. It was only 2 minutes or so, but I was moving a lot and I felt super fast, in this fight, I really loaded up with him being right there. And in the first, we ended up going right to the ground from there. So it didn't really matter, but that's kind of what led to the downfall ultimately, right? I got to the ground way sooner than I planned. And then in the third, same thing. I was real front foot heavy, falling into my shots, throwing everything into every shot, kind of loading up. And that's never really been me. So the big thing for me has been more reps. I have my boxing coach in Myrtle Beach, who I still work with. I'm always going to work with. He's my coach. He does a lot of strategy for me. He teaches me a lot about boxing, but he was in Myrtle Beach. So I have to supplement the days I can't get there, because a lot of times when I get there, I'm only hitting mitts and then getting to the other practices that we have there, jiu-jitsu and MMA and sparring and all that. But I've got to get more reps in the bag. I can get more reps in double M bag, speed bag, and shadow boxing, everything. So I've been boxing here in town every day that I'm not down there, here at Port City Boxing with Andre Thompson, who's a really good coach here in town. And that's been about 6 weeks or so. And I'm seeing the difference in the sparring. It's just putting in reps, straightening out the shots, being quicker, being more efficient. I had like a little smoker a couple weeks ago in the gym. They had like a sparring day where people like kind of stand around the ring and watch. And I think it's just good for me to get out of my comfort zone and be doing that. I sparred today with a guy that's a straight boxer. So just doing that, I've really revamped my strength and conditioning. And I've cut down on my travel time a lot. I was pretty vocal in the past about how I traveled probably 4 out of 5 days in camp, and 3 out of 5 days out of camp. And it was just destroying my body, and that's been huge too, is being able to rest properly between sessions, eat, recover, and actually be excited to be walking in the gym and not just run down from being on the road all day, So those have been the 2 big things. And as a result, I've been seeing, just really big gains in the strength and conditioning. And even in, like, as dumb as it sounds, like my physique, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm not holding cortisol and I'm not, it's just, I feel like I've been rejuvenated, and I don't know that would have made a difference in the fights. It's not saying that. It's just saying this opened my eyes up to some big changes. And I know all my coaches are happy about it.
Are you 100% healthy now? Are you no injuries coming out of that fight? Were you injured, or are you just 100% healthy now?
No, the worst thing was from the canvas. The UFC canvas is like kind of rubbery and tacky. Not like straight canvas, not like straight vinyl, like some of the amateur regional shows. So I had like terrible burns on my knees. I was like getting messages, people being like, "Are your knees okay?" But other than that, no, I was good to go. So I trained a little bit the week after, got back to what I could. And then the week after that, it was off to the races. So it's been ever since. And the other big thing has been getting back to competing. We did the ADCC trials, the East Coast trials in Atlantic City, the beginning of November. And then last week I went out to Vegas and did the Fight Pass Invitational. So both pretty big grappling tournaments, and just getting back to these fights are so important, when we're in the UFC, and this is how we make our living. And this is, the legacy we want to leave behind and all that stuff. It's just getting back to how I started, which was every weekend I'd find a grappling tournament and go do it. I'm not going to do that now, but if there's an opportunity to go either compete at the highest stage or, get paid a purse to compete or something like that, I mean, I can't think of a reason not to do it. And in the past, it's something I would have shied away from. And this has been big for me, is getting back to going, oh yeah, I love to compete. Like, forget the lights, camera, followers, whatever it is, forget the pressure of going, oh, I will win this, lose this, my next fight, contract, all that crap. It's just been, let's get out there and get after it. And I think that was big for me. It was like getting back to what I really, really love. So I did those. And then I have one more, actually next Thursday, I just signed to do a big match at Fury Grappling. Will be on Fight Pass in Philadelphia. So just getting back and staying active and just saying yes to everything. You know, it's a big sparring day at the boxing gym. Hey, can you make it? We're going to have a crowd here. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Like I'm just any chance I can to compete. That way, next time I get in there, I won't feel flat. You know, I felt flat. I made bad decisions last fight, and I've always been a great competitor. So what's the key? I think compete more.
You mentioned Matt Burn earlier from your fight. I just remember something funny. Michael Chiesa tweeted on the show that when you get home, you're probably going to have the most painful shower of your life after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had that after the Miller fight, after my Wyman fight. And I always just sit around in my like fight kit, just like putting it off. Like I'll eat first. And, like I'm the kind of guy, like when I'm done training, I shower immediately, you know, but on fight day, I'm like, I'm putting this off as long as possible. And then that water hits and it's just a nightmare.
I was going to ask, do you feel you overwork yourself sometimes with all the grappling tournaments and the fights, or do you feel that it's better for you?
No, you know, if anything, I probably do it in the training. You know, I really like to train at the same intensity all year long. I was talking about that with my boxing coach yesterday. We were sparring MMA in Myrtle Beach, and he was like, "Oh, like try to play with something tonight and do this and do that." And then he's like, "You know what? You're no good going light. Just go." And that's kind of my issue with everything. Like, I don't really like to pull back on conditioning, or if I'm in a strength phase, I still try to hit all my intense cardios, and that's probably my downfall. But I think it's also probably what makes me good, because I'm not very gifted, so I kind of have to keep that high intensity. But as far as the competitions, I made a promise to myself that if I was going to do it, it'd be something that was going to help me out. So either like the ADCC trials were for me, because I grew up wanting to try to qualify for that tournament. I went 2-1. I didn't qualify, but great experience. But there wasn't like a big prize for that or anything. But then the Fight Pass Invitational, there was a purse and then a chance at a bigger prize. And then with next week, same thing. It's paying. So it's like, that's a no-brainer for me to say yes, because I'm a prize fighter and a competitor. But my deal with myself is I'm not going to taper my training to that, because if I'm in good shape and I'm training all year long, I'm sparring, I'm wrestling every week, grappling every single day, I should be in shape for a grappling match. So what I've been doing is just tapering like maybe the day or two before, changing a couple things, and maybe I won't lift as heavy, or I'll drill instead of go live. But that way I'm still staying focused on the fight, because fighting is my career, my livelihood, and my main passion right now. So got to focus on that. But I think that's probably what's going to keep me from burning out. Or, you know, if you're tapering and then, you know, peaking, coming off, it probably wouldn't work out very well going to the next fight. So I'm just trying to treat it like a hard day of training.
Derek Lewis for this weekend against Chris Daukaus. I was going to ask, what did you think of his performance? And I have another question off that, but we'll wait for your response.
Yeah, I think he looked great. You know, he looked a lot faster. He put that combination together. It wasn't just an overhand. You know, he rattled off a really, really fluid, fast combination. And he was composed. When he heard him the first time, he didn't necessarily like chase after him like crazy. He kind of let him recover a little bit, because he didn't want to get hurt, you know, because Chris is so good. I'm a big Daukaus brothers fan, both of them, Kyle and Chris. They're from Philly. I used to be from that area on the other side of the bridge in South Jersey. So they train with Will Martinez, who was like we always train at the same gyms. A lot of times I've like been able to roll with Will when I was a lot younger at like Balance Studios and stuff. And those guys have always been, you know, cool to me, and I really enjoyed them. I saw them at the Fight Pass thing last Thursday. And so I was pulling for Daukaus in the fight, you know, and I'm always going to pull for those guys. But yeah, that just shows you, because Chris has been on a huge run. So Derek Lewis still has it. You know, I think on any night he could beat any of those guys and be the champion, you know.
Now I'm going to ask, would you rather take a full pelt right hand from Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou?
Man, I don't know. I guess probably Francis, because if you're in the position to get punched by Francis, you're probably fighting for the heavyweight title of the world. So it's probably a big pay-per-view bonus. But either sounds very good.
Who do you think hits harder out of them two?
I think if it's a right hand, probably Derek Lewis. But every single shot, like I think even, you know, when he sits down in his right hand, it's a harder shot. But I think every punch by Francis, punch for punch, is probably way harder. Like his jab's probably way harder. His left hook's probably way harder. But I think that overhand is probably Derek Lewis.
Did you catch co-main event of Stephen and Bilal?
Yeah. I thought that was really impressive. That was a quite a grind he put out there, you know, and I love those kind of performances. Some people don't like them when, you know, but how else is somebody going to beat Wonder Boy? You're not going to go strike for strike with them. And in that smaller cage, it was the perfect game plan, and he never faded. You know, I think that was really, really impressive that he could put that on for 3 straight rounds, and he won every second pretty much.
I was going to ask, how does it feel to put a non-stop grind on someone like that? Are you impressed by how he's able to do that for 3 rounds?
Oh, I think that's one of the most incredible things, you know, in a sport with so many variables and so many ways to lose. to be able to hold somebody in a position for that long, I think is remarkable at this level. When I fought Jim Miller, like I got a little flack for it being boring, but you're like, man, like what you can't see is when his big toe gets under your knee, like he's good enough to off balance you completely and get away and then get your neck off of that. So like there's a lot happening behind the scenes there that we all can't see on TV, even knowing what's going on, it's hard to see. So I think that's super impressive when anybody can put somebody in a box like that for 3 rounds. And, I think when people don't like it, obviously we're in the entertainment business. You want to, he was entertaining, but I'm just saying if it wasn't, people that they hate on wrestling or grappling that are fighters, it's like, then go kickbox. Chances are you're only a good enough kickboxer or boxer to fight in MMA, not to do those. So beggars can't be choosers. You can't be mad that people are going to wrestle. If you want to box, be a better boxer and go make money in boxing. But I think I saw, it was an interview with somebody the other day. It was like, oh, he's going to try to wrestle me. That's ridiculous. It's like, dude, you're a top 15 fighter in the UFC. Learn how to wrestle or pick a different sport. But chances are you go to boxing, you're going to get your butt kicked because that's all they're focusing on, So, I thought it was super impressive with Muhammad. He looked awesome.
There's no UFC for 4 weeks from the next 4 weeks. How are you handling it, mate?
I'm good. I'm one of the biggest fight fans you'll ever meet, but I struggle to watch all these cards. It's almost to the point where it's like, I wish there wasn't one on one night so I can justify watching a movie or something. But if there's fights on, I'm going to watch them. I just love them. So I'm good. It'll give me a couple weekends of some downtime with the family and watch something else. And then that gives everybody a chance to tune into Fight Pass because there's no combat sports going on for Fury Grappling 3 next Thursday. There's a ton of UFC fighters on there, so not quite the same, but it'll still be a competition. So,
I'm gonna ask: have the UFC been in talks with you about coming back soon, or have you had no fight news coming in yet?
So I went out there last week, and my manager Jason House lives out there, and he was at the event cornering, and he said that we're working on something. So hopefully soon. I'm not mad that I don't know about it before Christmas because I'm still going to be training the same, just as intense. But when my daughter's opening her presents on Saturday, I don't have to be thinking about some guy that wants to beat me up in a couple of weeks. It's like having the name changes everything. That's all you can focus on is that person. So, I was told, roughly March, maybe February, maybe just after March. But definitely soon. Nothing set in stone, but going to get through that competition next week. And then that's kind of in connection with the UFC. They're kind of putting it on Fight Pass. So, and I spoke with somebody last week that was asking if I'm medically cleared, if I had any injuries from the last fight. So green light on everything, and hopefully we'll get a name here soon.
Do you want to fight with a crowd, or do you rather it when there's no crowd really?
I really, really like the Apex fights. I love fighting in front of a crowd too. But it's funny was I love the Apex fights. I actually had preferred them a lot going in. And then last fight, I felt kind of flat. I don't think it was from no crowd or anything. But I was like, man, maybe let's mix it up. I wouldn't mind being in front of a crowd. The big thing for me is the quarantine. It's not the crowd, because there was, there's like 100 people in there when you fight in the Apex now. They're letting some people in, but it's for me, it's not having like, I don't like to carry a big posse of people around me or anything like that. It's just you only get your 3 corners when you're out in quarantine in Vegas. And even though some of the guys are able to come and go now a little bit and walk around town and stuff, it still stinks. Like for me, I like having my wife there. She's kind of like my anchor, and we've gone through all these fights together. I had been in fights on the amateur scene and stuff where it was just her and I there, the night before, the day of, and all that. So for me, I like to have that. And usually my brother comes, and one of my best friends, Ali El Reda, who owns a gym in New York, and he flies out, and just having like my little support system there on top of my coaches who are my support system too. But other than that, once you're in the cage, it's all the same. So it doesn't affect me one way or the other. I do like being able to hear my coaches even better with no crowd or a small crowd. But I wouldn't mind fighting in front of a crowd, just mix it up again, because I only got to do that once before COVID.
How active do you want to be next year?
Yeah, I'd like to fight 3 times. That's kind of why I've had to go back to doing some of these grappling competitions, because I've been wanting to stay active, but I'd much rather fight 3 times in a year, because that's what I'm doing right now with my life, So, I know it's tough for them because they signed so many people with, guys testing positive for COVID and falling out the week of. They'd pull somebody up off the regional scene. They almost added a third to their roster. So I know they got a lot of guys they have to get fights contractually. They're obligated to. But 3 would be awesome. When I was in the regional scene, I was fighting 4 and 5 times a year sometimes. So which is too much at this level probably. But I think 3 would be perfect, especially for me. I'm always training.
Coming back in the UFC, it's going to be Giga Chikadze versus Calvin Kattar. Do you have a quick prediction for that fight?
Yeah, I've seen the highlights of Chikadze, and he's a monster. But I have a hard time picking against Calvin Kattar. I just think if he can get in the boxing range and settle in, which he wasn't able to do with Holloway, I think it's going to be a long, long night for Chikadze. But that's going to be tough to do because obviously before you can get in the boxing range, you got to deal with all those kicks, and he's an amazing kickboxer at that range. So, but I just think if anybody can weather the storm, be tough enough, and take a brutal amount of punishment and get to where they need to go, I think it's Kattar. So I'm going to pick him. That's probably half with my heart, half with my head, but I'll pick him.
Do you think the beating he took against Holloway will be career changing, or do you think he's going to come back the same man he was or better?
It's so hard to say, but it seems like when you get knocked out, I know he got TKO is bad, but when you seem like when you get, or he didn't get TKO, but he got a rough 5 rounds. But I think when you get your lights completely put out, sometimes guys never come back the same. But sometimes guys can just take that 5-round beat. Frank Edgar's fought like that his entire career. He's had fights where you're like, he's never going to be the same after that, and he comes back and he's better. So if anybody's the guy to do it, Kattar, Font, those guys up there, man, they're bred different. They're tough dudes. So I think he'll be the same.
I've got one more question. Oliveira, he's been talking about fighting Conor McGregor in May, and McGregor skipped the line over Gaethje. Now, would you be annoyed if that fight happened, McGregor Oliveira, and who would you have in that fight?
I'd be intrigued to watch it, but yeah, I think Justin Gaethje should get the next shot. It's weird because it seems like they get annoyed with Conor when he wants to come back and call the shots, but then they let him do it. So you can't be surprised that he's going to keep trying to do it. I have no desire to see that fight. I think he can win, especially the way Oliveira was getting touched with left hands from Poirier, and he was getting hurt. McGregor has the best, longest left hand in the 55ers, but I think Oliveira would strangle him. But I don't want to see that fight. I want to see Justin Gaethje because he's been in the fire constantly. He's been putting himself out there. He's fighting the best. He fought Tony Ferguson before Tony Ferguson went on his skid. He fought Khabib, but nobody wants to fight Khabib except for a chance at the belt. But he was wanting to fight Khabib to prove point. I think he deserves the shot. I think letting Conor come back is bad for the sport in that sense. The sport's better with McGregor in it because there's more eyes. But if you let him come back and stomp his feet and get what he wants, he's never going to go away. He's going to always do that. It's always going to hold up the division for guys that have been there for years. I'm one of the new guys, and I think on like Tapology, I'm like ranked 30th. So I can't be worried about title shots and stuff like that. But if 3-4 years goes by, when I plan to be up in that mix, I'd be annoyed if I'm those guys. Beneil Dariush, that guy's on a tear, and he's got to go through Islam now to get to the title shot. Whereas McGregor comes back, snaps his fingers, and really he's had one big win at 55. So I don't think he should get it.
Now, let's finish it with this. In a perfect 2022, where are you going to be at the end of the year?
And in a perfect 22, I fight 2 or 3 times, and I go undefeated, and I'm in a spot to really prove what I can do. The thing that's been eating at me a little bit is, I've been able to show some good stuff in some fights, but I'm so much better than what I've shown. And I know it's a cliche thing to say, but I've done it on the regional scene. I've been better. I've been better on the Contender Series, but nobody really saw. People watch, but not like that. My Hubbard fight, same thing. It was one of the lowest ratings or views, and I'm like, man, that's who I am. I just feel like I haven't had that breakout performance yet. And maybe if I have, nobody's seen it. That's what I want. I want to just show I'm not worried about followers. I'm not worried about. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be anything. I just want to show the world what I can do. And leave a really good legacy behind for my daughter to see. And I want to walk away with, my head held high, knowing I had great performances. And that's what I want to do by the end of the year. I want to climb the ranks and take it one fight at a time and just show the world what I can do. Because when I do that, when I'm myself in there, I think really, really cool things can happen. Really big things can happen. And I think I'm capable of going on a really good run here. So I think 2022 is going to be the start of that.
Well, mate, I'm rooting for you in it. So let's get it done. Anyway, Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on here. Thank you for your time. And
yeah, man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anything you want to say to your fans before we go?
No, just hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. I guess this will probably come out after, but yeah, I appreciate everybody's support. And man, it's just great to have that support. After the fight, you get a lot of people, you ruin their parlays or you ruin their betting, and they're telling you the worst thing ever, but you look back and you have that support too. And I had a lot more support than I had negative. And yeah, I'll be back. I'm back. I'm back training. I'm back competing, but I will be back in there getting my hand raised this year. I'm doing all the work, and I appreciate everybody's support.
Well, mate, Merry Christmas and thank you for your time. This is the Combat Station, and we are out.